thumbs up didn't do it. That was,
There we go. All right. Well, good evening, everyone. Today is Thursday, October 10th, 2013. It's 7 o'clock, and this is the Board of Selectmen meeting. First up tonight is, on our agenda, is a recommendation from Police Chief Alfano to sponsor Reserve Officer Dan Keller to the full-time police academy. Chief, let's come up.
Thank you. Gentlemen, if you haven't met, this is Officer Dan Keller. Dan, how are you?
We've met before.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, sir, for having me. Nice to meet you. How you doing?
Yeah, nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Thank you.
Well, thank you for hearing us. Dan has been a reserve officer with the Bolton Police Department since 2006. And as a part-time officer, he's had a stellar career here. He's just been an outstanding contributor to the department. He comes from an outstanding background. He has campus police experience, and he works in the private sector with an insurance company as well. And Dan has had such a passion for law enforcement that he would like to continue his education because he's been through the Reserve Academy, which is a requirement for reserve officers. But we have the opportunity, and he's been accepted to the Worcester Police Academy, where I went, so I'm a little prejudiced, for a full-time slot. So we have a wonderful opportunity here. It's no cost to the town, and is paying his own tuition to this. So I always, as a courtesy, come to the board whenever we would sponsor a part-time officer. That's actually how we've obtained a number of our full-time officers, as they were part-time officers. They went to the full-time academy and got their accreditation, and we've hired them, and they're all still with us. They've all been outstanding officers. So I would highly recommend that you allow me to sponsor Dan to that academy. He's here to answer any questions you may have.
I went through the stuff. I think it's great that you're going to do that, and I fully support it. I'm good.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And it's a great benefit to the town.
You know, Chief Alfano has told me many times what a great job Dan has done, so.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Good. Appreciate it.
Excellent. Well, thank you, gentlemen. We appreciate that.
Excellent. Thank you.
And he starts the 24th, right?
28.
28.
28.
Okay,
So
so
25 weeks. So
he's in fighting weight right now. He's been running and doing push-ups and all of that. So
we'll hopefully see you on the other end. So
right.
Also,
Yeah,
to go.
it's great for our department and this program.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate
All
it.
right.
Very
Good
much
luck.
appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you, Chief.
My regards to your family.
Excellent. Thank you, sir.
Super.
good luck.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Next up on our agenda is a recommendation from Police Chief Alfano for the appointment of Detective Kim Barrett to Police Sergeant. Kim, how
Have
are
you all?
Nice to
all met
meet
Kim?
you.
good to see you again.
Hi. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you all.
Well, Kim, another long timer with the department. Kim has been with us since 1996 in just about every capacity within the department. She currently wears two hats. She serves as the lead detective and also as a patrol officer. She's also served as an acting supervisor. So she's really done just about everything in the department, including dispatching. So she's a jack of all trades. We had as you know, we had a vacant sergeant slot. We really needed to fill that. We needed the additional supervisory element to complete our command structure, and we had an exhaustive search, so to speak, for sergeant, to include a very extensive written exam conducted by an outside agency. We had an oral board, which Mr. Lowe sat on. It was pretty tough. A lot of tense moments for everybody on it. That was a tough committee.
I do agree.
We had some neighboring police chiefs and command staffs from other departments also on that committee. So she was grilled by police chiefs from different towns. And also an extensive written assignment, and also a review of service records. And through that process, all the candidates did a great job, but Kim came out on top. She really earned this position. So I'm asking you tonight if you would consider appointing Kim to our vacant sergeant slot as police sergeant patrol supervisor.
Oh, absolutely. I'm all for it. Congratulations, Kim.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, it seemed like you did sort of an excellent job putting together the group that looked at it. You had several qualified candidates, and Kim is on top, and that's great.
Yeah, a lot of studying. It was a long exam, very long exam, very comparable to the civil service promotional testing process. Same standard. So
That's great.
it really, really got us outstanding candidates.
And as the chief said, I sat in on the oral review and was one of the questioners, and Kim did an outstanding job, excellent job fielding all the questions, and there's a lot of different questions coming from a lot of different directions.
Yeah, it had a mix of civilians and police officers on the committee, so it was a nice balance.
Good.
Great.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Now, I would ask the board to actually officially vote on the appointment.
Okay, sure. I move that we appoint
Sorry.
Kimberly Barry to the
I'll second.
position of sergeant.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
You are now officially.
Thank you, Steve.
Congratulations again.
Congratulations, sir.
Thank you. Congratulations.
The actual pinning ceremony will take place at 9:30 Tuesday morning at the station. Anyone is available.
Thank you
And
very
she's on
much.
duty now, so she can go back.
Don't write somebody up now.
Yeah, that's right.
Safer already.
Yes. Great.
Thank you, Kim.
Okay, next up on our agenda is a third recommendation from Police Chief Alfano to review and execute the Central Massachusetts Law Enforcement Council Mutual Aid Agreement, that are known as CEMLEC.
Semlec.
That easy to pronounce acronym.
Sounds like a
Yeah,
lot.
it's such a twist, so that's what everybody calls it. We have an opportunity to, right now, I'll give you some background information. Right now, Bolton and all the surrounding towns, particularly the smaller towns, we're involved in mutual aid with each other. As you know, we have a limited staff of officers on, particularly on the night shifts, as do the surrounding communities. And when you need help, like in a search, a major crime, a missing person, when we need a lot of help, we call upon the area towns, as do they. And there are very loose agreements, most of them verbal, like if Stowe calls us for help, we'll go over, vice versa. It works, but as Larry can tell you, sometimes in the court of law, things can get cloudy. So what has become very popular are regional agreements for law enforcement groups. Middlesex County has a very similar setup to this. The northern part of the state has a very similar setup. It's usually organized on a county basis. And it really covers all the bases because it's a formalized agreement so that if a Bolton officer gets called into Stowe, for example, to assist, that Bolton officer has all the powers, responsibility, and authority of a Stowe police officer. They're not paid. We still would pay the officers because they're on duty for us.
Right.
But it's a formalized agreement so that should there be any litigation, they're covered, the officers are covered, the towns are covered. Massachusetts is a funny state. There was a court ruling, it was called the LeBlanc decision, where officers from one town chased a person, a drunk driver, into another town, and they went to arrest that drunk driver. The case was lost and the town was sued because they were not duly authorized to be in that town, even though they were committed in the commission of their duties. So what these regional groups do is they give more strength to authority when an officer needs to go into another town. And it's while they're on duty. So, you don't have officers, for example, on a day off deciding to go run radar in Springfield or something. So it's not designed for that. It's designed to cover the officers while they're on duty. There's no cost to the town. There's no cost to Bolton. And I included in the packet some maps of all the area towns.
Yeah, I noticed that.
If you look at that, there's only a couple holes in it. One is Worcester, right in the middle. Worcester, they have enough resources at the moment, so they feel that they don't need to belong to this. Bolton and Stowe. And Stowe is seriously considering joining as well, so that would kind of complete the puzzle. And I really feel it's a benefit to the town. It's of no cost. I think it protects us down the line should there be any type of a question of jurisdiction or authority. So I think it would be a good move for us to do it.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, Chief. I mean, I read the information. I think it's great. It protects us, protects the officers. there's no cost to it. so-
Right, they do have, and I made note of it in my synopsis too, they do have a tactical, a SWAT team component that some towns have subscribed to. That is an extra cost, that's like $1,500 a year. I don't wanna do that, I don't feel that's a need.
Mhm.
If we ever had to have any type of a tactical operation, a severe, a barricaded gunman or something, we would simply contact the state police. They have their own team, we work with them every day.
Mhm.
They provide dogs to us, helicopters, whatever we need, and they pay for it, so that's always a good thing. So that particular component of SEMC, we're not going to
Okay.
join. You probably saw their unit and all those other units went into Boston during the marathon concern. So all of those teams that you saw in there were regional law enforcement council teams.
Okay.
So to join this requires 2 signatures, one the chairman of the board and also mine. So hence, I'm here.
The agreement seems like it's very well crafted in that it assures that even when your officers are in another town, you have the ability to pull them back if you have some need for that. How would this change your late at night, you've got a need, a search or something going on? Could you still pick the town you call, or do you go through a centralized?
We would invite in whatever towns would be available and close. For example, the last 2 significant searches we had, which were actually a month ago, Hudson assisted us, Berlin assisted us, Clinton assisted us, Stowe assisted us, and Lancaster assisted us. And we do similar to other towns. We're constantly going over to Berlin to assist them.
Yeah.
It's something that doesn't normally involve tying up your entire shift, and we would always have coverage in the town. So that's,
Okay.
it's really a necessity. It's almost like shuffling around resources.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also noticed there was an insurance requirement, which is a good idea, but are we already covered for that, the $1 million in coverage?
I believe we are. I spoke with the chairman of SEMLEC, and he said, we're all set, there's no cost to us. So that's something I will double check on, but I believe we already have that.
Yeah, well, I think it's a good idea.
Roughly speaking, do we get about the same amount of aid that, that we give other people, or?
It really depends on the situations. We tend to have.
Over a year, over a couple of years, it kind of evens out, or?
I think so. For the larger events, we tend to have the other towns come here because we're surrounded by towns like Hudson and Clinton that have larger departments. We do our share. It's been over to Lancaster, Stowe. We don't.
And you seem to go out on 495. I mean, the state police.
Oh, state police. We assist them regularly.
Yeah,
regularly because we also do have jurisdiction on the highway up there. Where our fire department, ambulance, and police, we're the first in responding units up there. The good thing is that we turn it over to the state police when they get there. So they're responsible for all the reporting. They write the accidents.
Yeah.
And they collect any fines for anything that would be up there. And it's vice versa. They're very quick. We call the state police in to assist us at least 2-3 times a month for various reasons. So it works. If you have a larger department like the department I came from in Framingham, where it's at several hundred officers, it's very easy. If you need 12 officers within 5 minutes, you have them. Here we don't have that luxury, so we have to draw on the community.
No, I think it's great. Do we need a vote on
Yes,
this?
please.
Okay.
I move that we approve the Central Massachusetts Law Enforcement Council Mutual Aid Agreement and that the chairman be authorized to sign that.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
I just
Yes?
have a question. Is there any downside to it, Chief Alfano? Because why hasn't Stowe, for example, why are they considering it? Is there any reason that people?
No, I've reviewed it quite thoroughly. I've had the chairman, who is also a fellow police chief, and he gave a presentation to us. There's quite an extensive information packet we provided to the selectmen. At this point in time, with the convoying that we do and the type of calls, we're seeing more serious calls. We're finding more people running from the police. We're finding more people coming into town that really are causing issues. And the other towns are finding the same thing. So there is no downside to this.
It's only condemned.
Yeah, it's a safety issue too.
Thank you.
Super. I think you have the signature.
Any other discussion? Hearing none? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah, we were just signing next to Bolton's name.
Right.
They keep like a master sheet.
Yeah, that graphic is pretty dramatic with the.
It is,
Worcester
yeah.
is the
It's
hole in the
Yeah.
donut,
Yeah.
and
We're a little bite on the side.
They're really working on Worcester. Really working on that.
Bolton, Stowe, Shirley, and then
Yeah.
it's just kind of the,
yeah.
the Clifford one as well.
Yeah. Do you need this? Or-
You can take it if you just give me a copy,
Oh, sure.
I guess.
Great, well, thank you very
Thank
much,
you, Chief.
gentlemen, we
Thank you,
appreciate
Chief.
that. And I'll get out of your hair and not monopolize your meeting.
Thank you very much. Have a
Take
nice
care.
night now.
You too.
All right, next up on our agenda is a discussion on transferring control of Route 117 to the Department of Transportation.
Well, at the last meeting, the board voted to defer any action on directing me to send a letter to get the process going so that, I think it was Mark who said, let's see how much Don's phone lights up, and it gave the board a chance to think it through a little further. It also gave the board an opportunity to put this back on the agenda so people who had questions or concerns could come and pose the question. So I can tell you that my phone did not light up. I actually received no calls on it, either for or against. I received one call from someone outside the community who thought it was a good idea, but I have met people in my travels who live in Bolton who I would say probably 9 out of 10 thought it was a good idea. But I have not had people come to my office, I have not received phone calls.
And you have had some discussions with other towns
I have.
concerning their interaction with the state
Mhm.
in a similar situation.
I spoke with 2 area town administrators, and one was very, very complimentary of the quality of work that DOT does in maintaining the road, actually 111, in the wintertime. So they did a very, very good job. They were responsive. If they had issues, they would call and they would respond to them fairly quickly, and really didn't have a lot of downside to it. Another town administrator said that overall there were more pluses than minuses. They had experienced some communication issues on a project that they were working out, but as far as when I asked specifically about the maintenance of the road in the wintertime, it said that they also did a very good job, and we're pleased with it. So overall, the response that I got back from my colleagues was favorable.
Okay. And just so everybody knows, the letter that Don mentioned that's in question here, all that does is says that the town is interested for the state, if they're interested, to do whatever investigation that they need, which will probably take anywhere from 1 to 2 years before anything has to happen relative to making any decisions on whether we go in this direction or not. But the state will not move forward with their investigation of whether they want to do this unless they know that the town is willing to let them do that. So at that point, the letter is, there's no obligation on anyone's part for anything, other than allowing the state to do whatever investigation they need to do.
I do have some reservations on this, but I don't have any issue with us investigating it some more with a letter like that. But there doesn't seem to be a lot of area experience on this, and I was wondering if, in addition to 117, we might ask them to look at 110, because it's not so central to the town. And if we were hesitant about it, maybe they could take over 110 for a couple of years, and we see how that worked out, and then we could decide on what we want to do with 117.
Well, there's been any discussion that the state is interested in taking over Route 110.
Okay,
It's 117.
just 117?
Because of, it's already, in their words, it's the most heavily traveled state road in the area that they don't already control.
Okay.
And they're specifically interested in the corridor between 495 and 190.
I'm sure they would be. That's why I have some concerns
And
about
getting,
that.
well, let me just say, I mean, there's an implication there, and I can't say enough that there is no plan to widen 117. The footprint isn't there to widen 117.
No, I understand there's nothing on the table like that right now.
The
No,
laws
no,
of-
no, 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 no. I think what Don's saying is, it's not physically possible to widen 117, especially in a historic district. So, you know, just walk out on Main Street and take a look to the left and
No,
look
I-
to the right. You know, the only widening that would be done would be adding 2 lanes, and that is physically impossible to do. Just look at it. So, and they themselves have said that they have no interest in doing that, and any type of improvement other than what they're trying to plan for the intersection of 495 and 117, which is a totally separate matter, probably nothing would be done with 117 for what, maybe between 10 and 20 years?
That's what they said.
That's what they said.
I mean, because we've just done resurfacing, so,
And you have to look at 117 in its entirety. It would make literally no sense to widen a portion of it. All you would do is create a bubble that would collapse back again. You would have to widen the whole thing from
Right.
beginning to end, and it just would, it literally, it can't be done.
You know, you could,
Well,
I'm not sure I buy that, because you've got 70, which is a feeder onto 117 for people coming this direction in addition to 190. And, you know, part of my concern is that I'm not familiar with what the state can do with the road versus what a town can do with the road versus what it's, you know, its resources for eminent domain and to buy property are far greater than the town. Part of this is just I don't know what all those parameters are and how different they are for a state, and so I've got some reservations at this time.
well, but right now, there's no obligation that we're committing to.
No,
So you should know that.
yeah, as I said at the beginning, I have no objection to pursuing this some more.
Right.
Mary Chumo, 74 Corn Road. Financially, it's, you know, a win-win situation in terms of maintenance and repair, in terms of improving safety conditions on the road, in terms of if there are any green initiatives that they want to undertake, they can do that. My reservation is the unknown aspect of it. And maybe when the state, if this letter goes out and the state does their investigation, maybe they'll have better ideas of the types of things they'd be looking at if they were going to make changes. What I would ask that you do is to contact all the abutters, because I think that's important. And maybe make this a town meeting warrant article.
For the letter?
No, yes, to.
No,
Send a letter?
it's, making it an article is not appropriate.
Okay.
No, at the point in time that they've done whatever investigation, you know, they'll present that, and I think as the process continues, you know, then possibly public hearing to get an update and everything else, and then certainly, you know, maybe a decision whether to turn it over or not might be something we put on the annual town meeting,
Okay.
but it is not appropriate
Okay.
for an article of the town meeting to.
But contacting abutters, I mean, they're going to be impacted in terms of curb cuts, pole placements.
Well, you don't know
and
that.
Parking.
You don't know that.
Well, he did state that the representatives who were at the first meeting said no parking, so that would affect the center of town. They mentioned placement of poles, and he did mention curb cuts.
But there's no parking, but all that other stuff is only after they've done the investigation. So premature to have notify abutters for something that we have no idea what the state's gonna come back, it really doesn't make sense.
And as I've advised the board, if we start to make progress, if the state does look like they do want to continue down this road with us, at some point, it's my recommendation to the board that it would be completely appropriate and desirable to have a public hearing, to have representatives from DOT in, so DOT and the Board of Selectmen can field whatever questions and concerns are appropriate and have them addressed in a public forum.
Okay.
Absolutely. You had your hand up first.
Yeah, Kia Oceanbine, 702 Main. I just heard briefly the representative when he was at your last meeting, and it's an interesting concept, and I think it's worth exploring. However, I have a couple reservations. One is, it is the type of thing that in today's environment, in today's financial environment, that people are just gonna assume that it's a great monetary win-win, which it is. But I think it's gonna take a while for this town to process the long-term consequences of it. And I think we need a whole lot of data on it, especially the town center, because the towns you talk to don't really have a town center, or in some cases, the state usually skips over a town center and controls routes before and after, and it's exactly because of the parking situation. Now, I know the guy said, oh, don't worry, we're not gonna put in another lane, and you said there's no room for it, but I'll tell you, you take out the parking lanes and you have a turn lane, and it very dramatically affects those of us in the center. I mean, right there, we don't have parking out there. We need parking because most of us have very small lots and septics that we can't expand on. You know, do we ask for more curb cuts so we can now park in our front yards? Do you guys want us parking in our front yards? Because most of the time you don't. But, you know, there's a whole lot of stuff to be explored. So when you contact them for doing a study, I would strongly suggest you ask them to simultaneously study taking over the road and, you know, skipping the historic district, or skipping over the part where we currently have parking.
And that may be one viable option.
that might be
but
one
the
option.
thing is, we won't know any of that until they're allowed
Right, but I think
to-
you should specifically ask if that's done, because that's gonna be a key ingredient. The other thing is, I don't know, somehow I think maybe we should just hold off until we find out if Leominster's getting their casino. Because you know the state is very, very interested in this road for exactly, you know, I mean, it's already very heavily traveled, but you put in slots at the corner of 117 and 190, and look at the map. There's a huge amount of traffic that would be coming this way. And the state is gonna really love it if they can control the road. And that's not 15 years out. That might be a lot sooner than what he was saying, oh, don't worry, we won't do anything for 15 years.
But that can also be considered, but what they do in Leominster really has no bearing on the state looking at 117. And I don't think we should link the two together. At least at this point.
The state's interest on this actually predates when
Right.
Leominster
Oh,
started
I know
talking
it
about
does.
it. So it wasn't,
I know it does.
you know,
Right.
the cause and effect there aren't quite
I know
there,
it
so.
does, I know. And I do think the state, you know, could do a whole lot around the high school, which we looked at Public Ways, and the 110 intersection. But I have some very large reservations about the town center. And I think he, you know, he was very casual, saying, oh, yeah, we usually work with the town to see what they want. And, you know, I really question that, because the state really gave us a hard time about that 30-mile-an-hour east of Manor Road sign, you know, which was pretty, they did not want to work for us. They did not want to move that. That, you know, continues to be a major problem for local people. Local people who want to get from the south side of 117 to the north side. You know, that, it's very hard to cross 117.
I think all these discussions are good, but I think these discussions should be held when we have the gentleman in from the state again, so they can hear from us, because expressing them now is not gonna solve anything at this point in time. You know, they need to be allowed to do whatever investigation they need to do. It's going to take between 1 and 2 years to do it. We're not committing to anything by having this done. It just allows us to look at options, and we can always say no. Mr. Brown?
The part of parking is not true. Harvard has a center, and they do park on 111. As David Lorian said, the sign's there, it's no parking, all right? It's jurisdiction of local police. You go through Harvard in 111, you'll see them parked on the side. It's just, as they said, this is what the law says, but they don't enforce it. They don't enforce that at all. As far as our center, I don't see any changes. They'll make it all.
They would enforce it if there's a turn lane. If there's a third lane with a left turn lane for Wataquataca Manor, you can bet they would be enforcing us parking in the lane.
Dan, you had your hand up.
Yes, I was on Public Ways and chaired it for many years. The discussions around safety on 117 have been going on a long time. The whole time I was on the committee, which was over 5 years, I've been off now for 3 or 4. There are so many issues, and generally when we've addressed this with the state, we had them in one time, they set up monitoring on the whole road, did a whole bunch of studies, after which they said, we won't do anything for you. One of the upsides that I see to this is getting the town and this board and DPW out of the firing line between the residents who are upset about nothing happening to the road and DOT, who actually has to approve stuff whether or not we own it. They won't let us do anything to it. Apparently we are allowed to put stop signs up. They would be very upset if we did that. But aside from that, we're not allowed to put up traffic lights. We're not allowed to touch any of that stuff. We have a signal at Bolton Orchards that is awful. Its timing got adjusted, so now you can't get out of 117 if you're more than 3 cars back, but it lets 117 flow. But we have several intersections that are way underperforming. Having the state own it would be an upside in terms of them being able to have the resources to put into the safety. Whether they'll do it or not, who knows, but at least they get the complaints directly at that point. And I would encourage it. I think this is a good idea, certainly worth getting to the point of having to study it. But I would encourage doing it. The center of town issues I understand, and there may need to be something around that. Over on my side of town, absolutely. If they want to take over 110 as well and maintain that and take that expense away from the town, and Harold's crew does a great job on the road, but if they want to put cat's eyes on the road like they do on 111 up through the hills, make it nice, you know?
David, you had your hand up.
Yeah, just backing what Kia said, there is a small part of 111, I think, that they do skip over in that West Acton town center, and that seems to me like a real good potential model for both.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think everything's on the table. Everything's on the table at this point. Yes, Martha?
2 things. In the mid to late 1980s, the state didn't know who controlled the intersection at 85 and 117. The DOT in Arlington or Lexington, or in Worcester. Now it has been moved to Worcester. We've never been able to control the speed limits, and I think that we should realize we have no in-town parking until we have a solution to that. Perhaps with the Smith property development, we shouldn't just have no parking here in the town center.
Well, as Harold said, I mean, even though the state's controlling the road in Harvard, there is parking that is allowed.
But they usually put up state highway, no parking signs.
Well,
so you have to break the law.
True.
of parking.
Right, but right now, Martha, again, let's not assume anything until, we've had the state come in and do what they need to do. Bob?
Harvard, the center of Harvard has very wide shoulders on both sides of the paved road. And there is no way that if you're parked on the shoulder, you're gonna block traffic, which I think is a dramatically different situation than, for example, when the Historical Society has the geranium sale. So I don't think, I think Harvard, because they have such wide shoulders, they aren't a good example of.
And maybe not, but also the fact that on 111 in Acton, part of it skipped over by the state. So I mean that we need to accomplish that. So I think we're we're hypothesizing all kinds of issues and problems. Let's let the state do its 1 to 2 years investigation. We will have appropriate meetings all along the way. We'll have the public hearings so everyone's informed of what's going on. This won't be a surprise that 2 years down the road, we're gonna have a meeting that says, you know, vote up or down for the state. So, you know, I think we'll keep everybody in the loop on this, because it is an important issue, but I think it's certainly worth investigating.
And if I could, Mr. Chairman, I would just like to say that I fielded many questions already from individuals, some very well thought out questions, some that I had thought of, some that I had not. And I have passed them on to the district director for comment. It's been very responsive to concerns. And
Like the Halloween parade issue, which we'll be dealing with shortly.
That's right. And as Stan said, all of this should and will be stress tested.
Yeah.
You know, in at least one public hearing. I mean, I feel it's my job to seek options and then let the town weigh in on options. And this allows us to get sending the letter allows us to get the ball rolling, to get the process started in order to be able to have a forum or forums if we ever get to that point. And I mean, as I always try to do, I mean, I will fight like an animal to defend Bolton's rights and what's best for Bolton. But you know, I started this because I felt it was an option that should be explored, because if done properly, it can serve the town quite well. And if it can't be done properly, then we shouldn't do it.
You know, I want to address something Nakia mentioned. The casino, it is a separate issue, but that this proposed Leominster Slots Casino is one of 3 in the state, and at some point in the next 6 months, the Gaming Commission is going to decide which of the 3 is going to go forward. And as part of that, the Gaming Commission has these sort of elaborate regulations that the proponent has to address concerns of surrounding communities who feel that they'll be impacted. We've already reached out to Cordish companies to say, hey, we're going to be impacted, because I think you're right, Kia, we're going to see a lot more traffic on 117. So that we've begun that process, and I think all the casino operators did such a miserable job at talking to neighboring communities. The deadline's already been extended to the end of October to do that. But that's a separate track, but that is something that we're pursuing as well.
I have had initial correspondence with the ownership from Cordish companies, and we will be scheduling time to meet. And also, as I just learned today, on the state's website, there are, that's not a correct sentence, there is grant money, they're calling it a grant, available for the funding of expenses we may incur in making our case, be it legal expenses, be it potentially traffic studies and that type of thing. I'm assuming that ultimately the cost is borne by the proponent. But that's just an assumption on my part. I pulled the application form down from the state website. I certainly am going to be pursuing that on behalf of the town. There's a cap of, I think, $50,000. I mean, we'll never approach, I don't believe, $50,000 worth of expenses, but whatever expenses we might incur to make our case, we certainly shouldn't have to pay for, and now we have an avenue that we won't have to pay for.
Yeah, no, and there's even a procedure if you can't reach a deal with the casino proponent, then both sides have to submit to binding arbitration, and so it gets decided. So
that's right. I make an application. I make a proposal or a series of proposals to the proponent, Cordish. If we can't come to agreement, then I submit I submit a request to the Mass Gaming Commission asking that they designate us as a surrounding community, and if they do that, then we go back into that same process. We enter into negotiations, and if they don't prove to be fruitful, then we go to binding arbitration. And in the case of going before one arbitrator, the proponent again pays 100% of the expense of the arbitrator.
Actually, a quick question.
When are you going to come up to talk about your stuff?
Minutes ago, yeah. Harold, you would know better about this than I would, but I remember several years ago they had talked about doing a workaround to keep the historic district, and the road was going to go where the senior housing is, out behind where Florence Sawyer, and then cut across the Bolton Spring Farm orchard to connect where the Catholic Church is. keep the historic district. Is that still a possible alternative?
I've not heard of that.
I think Florence Sawyer School, dropping that in the middle of the road probably eliminated.
Yeah.
I'm pushing a tunnel from Bolton Marshes to 495.
There's still a lot of land
Bob,
behind
you
that.
stole my idea.
It's better than a drive over, that's for
Is
sure.
it?
I think it should go from 190 to 495.
Yeah.
I know years ago there was one proposal to do sort of a, from 117 to 85, but that's long.
Mom.
We can't do that anymore. Can't do it anymore. No. Any other questions, comments? Hearing none? Good? We'll keep everybody informed, but I think you need a motion to,
I need a motion for the board to authorize me to send a letter to the Department of Transportation.
So moved.
I will second it. I think can I request that, and it sounds like the residents might like to try to get a meeting this winter with the state so that they can get, before the state's done a lot of work, they can hear a lot of the concerns which may help direct the state's, what direction that the state wants to go on some things.
Certainly when the timing is appropriate, whether it's winter, early spring, whatever it is, I certainly will set the expectation that we would like the representatives from the state to come out for a meeting specifically held for this topic.
right, because we don't know exactly when they'll actually.
We don't know what their time frame is really.
But yeah, I think before it gets too far into the process, at least to have a meeting to hear some of the concerns, so they can maybe factor that in. Any discussion? Oh, yes.
Just a point of, all this summer, they were surveying from Long Hill up to and past Flatley. You're aware of that, correct? The state
Oh, yes,
surveyors
yeah.
were out there.
But I think that's in conjunction with potential work at the intersection of 495 and 117.
That's all related to
That
it.
has nothing
Down
to do with
through
it.
Long Hill Road.
That's right.
But it's had nothing
I
to do
thought
with.
that was going to be between the northbound and the southbound ramps, pretty much.
There's no definite plan yet, and I
Yeah.
suspect it's in that area. How far they went to survey out was, they may have had to pull points from there.
Mhm. Yeah, but that had to do with the different project.
Thank you.
Okay. Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor?
Hi.
Aye. Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Harold.
Thank you. It was a smart house.
Hey, Harold, put the tunnel in the budget.
Just call it a culvert. Yeah, $83 million for a culvert.
Well, Boston tried that with the big dick, that's what it turned out to be at first.
That's right, 4-lane culvert. Okey dokey. Up on our agenda next is an update from Parks and Rec and the 275th Anniversary Committee on Halloween Parade and Party in South Cemetery Lantern Light. How are you?
Good, how you doing? So annually, we do the parade and party. This year, we're gonna start at the library and just go straight from the library up Main Street to Mechanic. We do the trick or treat lane where a bunch of local businesses, they contribute, we get candy, kids do a trick or treat, and then we have a party at the Emerson School gym.
Cool. And I'm sure you've talked to the chief and
Yeah.
good stuff, and he's okay with it.
He's very okay with it, very excited.
He drives a cruiser in it.
He does.
So he's very okay.
He's a policeman.
No, that's good. So I mean, it's the same thing that it's done pretty much every year, so I'm fine with it.
Great. And then that's gonna be followed by the South Cemetery Lantern Light Tour that evening, from 7 to 9, yes.
Okay.
I move that we approve the Halloween parade starting at 3 p.m. at the Bolton Public Library and heading down Main Street to Mechanic Street. And this is on Saturday, October 26th.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Thank you.
Are you guys gonna be handing out candy?
And do costume.
Oh, in costume? All right, next up on our agenda is a request from Mary Rhea at Bolton House of Pizza to place a sign at 626 Main Street.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Good, thank you.
I think I gave Linda the new sign.
They have this right here is what they have.
Oh, you didn't have.
Okay.
Well, you don't, yeah, you don't
Yeah.
have it.
Because everyone, they think we are closed because no any sign, no any big sign there.
Mhm.
Everything they think we are closed, so we lose a lot of business, so please, we need to get it on.
Would you be taking down the second House of Pizza sign, or you plan to leave that up too?
I think we take it off, yeah.
Yeah, once you get the big one, yeah. I noticed this sign, the smaller sign, you sort of have reflective paint on it, which is sort of an interesting look. I don't know that's a problem, but do you know if that's what you're planning for the larger sign?
Yeah.
We have an outstanding issue with the Bolton House of Pizza and signs,
About the flag
and the
flag.
unpaid fine.
I know, I'm so sorry, we don't know if, first time I come to the meeting, I understand you say no, and then I think no in the front. I move it in the middle, maybe it doesn't hurt. But since the Linda called me and the police come to tell me, take it off, we take it as soon as they come. But we don't know, it's gonna cause problem. This is first time for us.
You know, what happened, as I recall the chronology, and I think this is before Mark was, it might have been Mr. Lindsay's last hurrah on the board. But,
So you can blame him.
but as I recall the chronology, we had voted on a Thursday night that no flag. And the flag, and you left the flag up all the way through the following Monday, and at that point Linda called and said, you have to take down the sign, there's gonna be a $300 a day fine. And then it appears again, it was up for 2 days.
For inside, not in the front. We put it in the middle, and we don't know it's gonna be problem too. So sorry about that.
It was quite far back, but it was.
Well, you know,
I'm really sorry about that. I'm really so sorry. It's the first time. We don't know. We like to do our best to bring business from the traffic, you know, because that's 117, it's busy. But now the sign off, everything is out, the business is slow.
the letter that you received on May 21 said you're actually being fined for 2 days, and since $300 a day is what's in our zoning bylaw, you were being fined for $600, and you haven't appealed that, because there's a procedure you could appeal that to Mr. Lowe. But I think before we're approving another sign, it seems though you ought to pay the fine that was assessed in connection with the last sign. No?
I don't know if we have to appeal it. I don't know that. I'm so sorry. I don't know if we have to appeal the $600.
Well, I mean, you received 2 copies of this letter, one at your home, one at your business, that said, and I think Mr. Wasaki signed it, saying therefore, under section 1.5 of the Bolton Code, you're being fined $600. Fines should be paid to the town of Bolton, mailed to the Selectmen's office, and that was, back in May. So, I mean, I happen to think $300 a day is a little harsh, but you haven't really acknowledged this at all, and that's sort of, troublesome.
My thing, me and my husband, we think if we take it off, that's okay. We don't have to pay anymore. We think about that. That's it.
It didn't say that if you took it down, you would waive the
I understand. We think about that. I understand that, but I'm so sorry.
Well, if one option is if there was some confusion on your part, do you want to allow
It's okay, please, I
the
can.
folks to at least appeal
Yeah, please.
an opportunity to appeal?
I'm relatively certain the appeal time
Period.
period has lapsed.
Yeah.
And we can't ignore Mass General law. So the appeal period is the appeal period.
Was the appeal period, I don't remember, I signed out such a long time ago, was there information on an appeal period in that letter?
Not in the letter, no.
No, not in the letter.
You know, I want to tell you the letter that came, like you said in May. My English is not that well. We understand little bit, not that much everything word. That's why.
Did, also in the letter, it said if you had any questions regarding this correspondence, please contact Linda Day.
No, I didn't call her.
No.
I didn't call you, yeah. Think as soon as we take it off, no problem.
I mean, it's, you know, it's a little difficult to make an exception when it was pretty clear. I can certainly
No,
understand.
and why did you leave the sign up in the first place? After you understood when you left here that Thursday night, you were supposed to take it down, and it was there all the way through the weekend.
For me, my husband said in the morning, we move it. In the morning, we go in the middle of the plaza, we put it in the middle of the plaza. And then, since the police came and Linda called me, we take it off right away.
But that was my question. My question had to be, after
I
the
leave-
flag was denied
I
on
leave
a
an
Thursday
alliance.
night, you kept it up Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then Linda called you the first time and said, please take it down. You took it down, but then you put it up in a different part of your property.
So it was up for at least 4
So
days
it's,
after we know.
but we didn't,
Because
we're
we
not
had
saying, we're
the-
not trying to fine you for 7 days or 6 days.
I understand, sorry, but we can't, because he put it with the, I think, I can't take it off by myself. I wait for him, for my husband helping me to do it.
Well, I'd be inclined to approve this sign, sort of contingent on your paying the outstanding fine. I mean, I think that, or maybe even, I don't know, if the rest of the board, I'd sort of waive half of that. But you can't just ignore these orders.
Half of that is fine. Half,
Well, I'm not sure.
that's what you say.
Well, that's just me. We need a majority.
I'm not entirely sure that's within the
Very
purview of
allowed.
the Board of Selectmen.
You know, that,
Oh, to reduce the fine?
I'm not sure that you can do that.
There's a young lady back there that wants
Yes.
to chime in.
Mrs.
Yes,
Bevan.
Mr. Chairman, I just have a question.
Yes.
Since the new zoning bylaws went out, all of the fines were taken from what Bolton always had in the past and slapped on as $300 in most cases. What was the previous Bolton sign violation fine, which also was voted in on, what, the 3rd of May? The new zoning bylaws, what, not accreditation, what are they called? Annotation.
Bylaw behind you.
It came in right in that same month, and suddenly everything shot up
Right.
from our old fines.
The previous was either
Is that an
$25 or
old
$50 a day. This is 2012.
Oh,
I don't think so.
so
I don't think this will show the old fines. But, I mean, basically, the old fine was so low, we had scofflaws who never paid, which is why they...
There you go.
I just
Right,
got bigger
well.
scofflaws.
Well, to your suggestion, I mean, we should find out who has the authority to do that, whether that's us or whether it has to be the.
I really don't know, I'm so sorry. It's the first time.
The hearing officer, if a hearing is filed within a timely manner, has the authority to do that. With the absence of an appeal being filed in a timely manner, I'm not sure that there's a mechanism to do that. I can research that, but I'm not at all certain that 4 months, 5 months later, there is any mechanism to do it.
Well, how about this? How about, you pay half your fine, and we will research whether you might have to still owe a second half, but if you pay half, you can put up your new sign, and then the second half will remain sort of hanging over your head depending on
I
what.
tell you the truth, it's too much 600. It's really too much. If it's just the half, to be honest, will be perfect.
Well, I think what Mr. Delaney is suggesting is that you pay half of the fine now.
Mm-hmm.
We will allow you temporarily to put your sign up. We will research whether or not
What does this mean?
you.
I'm sorry.
Sure, the fine is $600. If you pay half of the fine
300, yeah.
now,
Yeah?
we will allow you to temporarily put up your sign
Mm-hmm.
while we research and figure out whether or not we even are allowed to, either us or the building inspector, to do anything to adjust the fine or not.
What's the fine of not? What does this mean?
No, well, you technically owe, if you agree to this, you technically owe $300 if you pay the $300, the half of it now.
Mm-hmm.
So we're allowing you to put the sign up, you pay $300. However, you still may have to pay the other $300 to continue to have the sign up until we research and figure out whether or not either we have the authority or whether the building inspector has the authority to waive the other half.
Okay.
The other half.
Okay.
So we're at least it's a temporary compromise to at least allow you to have your sign up while we
Excuse me,
research.
can I speak to my husband on the phone to tell him what's happened?
Sure.
Okay.
And I guess just one more legal question, anything, the fact that it doesn't mention that you can appeal it, does that change?
Well, that's why I asked to see.
Well, and that's a question
Right,
to Larry
right.
and Don, is, the fact that it doesn't say, appeal this within some number of days or something, does that change the appeal period or any of that?
No.
Okay.
No, and it does have a reference to the section of the code.
Yes,
Yeah.
Excuse my
Okay.
language.
Okay.
I'm so
Yeah.
sorry.
That's okay.
Would it be all right if Linda held up the sign so the audience could see it?
Oh, sorry.
أيوة أنا في الاجتماع وهم سمحوا
Make
لي
sure the
أكلمك
camera
بالتليفون.
gets it.
هم موافقين على الصحن الكبيرة بس تشيلي
The
الصحن
size
الصغيرة
of
اللي
it,
تحت.
do we know?
Well,
What's the circle?
It's the
The
circle.
big-
صغيرة.
It's
Oh, the circle on the existing
لازم
sign.
تدفع 300.
that space that's blank now in the middle. They were going to replace it with that. So there was something there originally.
عشان بيقولوا لي احنا بعثنا لك جواب من شهر 5 وانت ما عملتيش قبله. ولما مشيتي من البيت اللي قعدتي 5 ايام على ما مشيتي العرب. 5 ايام على ما مشيتي العرب. انت مشيتي في الميتنج الخميس على يوم الاحد ولا مشيتي العرب. سبتي كل ده بره. لا ما شلناهوش على طول. ما شلناهوش على طول. لا يعني ما شلناهوش بس مش تاني يوم هو قال لي الراجل انا كاتبين كل حاجه ادفع 600 دلوقتي هم عايزين ندفع دلوقتي نمشي اوكي Okay, I'm gonna go to the car to get a check for 300.
Okay.
Okay. 1 minute, please.
Okay.
This is.
You don't know all the old annual.
With, the recodification is throwing me off, so I have to go look at it.
I know.
Well,
I mean, you can't ask Siri?
We don't want to lose the pizza house.
We feel sorry for her, because that's a lot of profit that she's
That's a lot of
losing.
Oh, yeah,
That's a
no,
lot of money.
And not English speaking,
yeah.
It is, and if this was,
no appeal.
if this was in June, I think it might be a very different discussion,
Just tell me she got it. Doesn't sound.
It was handled.
Understood I think they said, well, if we take the sign down, then we're free and clear, and,
Was there a date on the letter, Mr. Chairman?
May 21st.
21st,
Yeah.
yeah, so it was less than a month from town meeting.
Well, doesn't the state have to ratify what you have, your bylaws?
They had to ratify
The Attorney General, you mean?
Yeah.
Yes.
So when
The,
did
the
they
cod,
do
the
that?
recodification was a year earlier.
Oh.
Yeah, but it wasn't approved, or was it approved in 12
Yeah.
instead of
Yeah.
13?
I think so.
Yeah.
Well, the copy didn't get to us until this summer.
For those of you who read it, you have
Well,
Problem with the printers.
It was, you're right.
Put you to
You're-
sleep.
that's
Yes,
there you
exactly
go.
right.
No, the
I think it was
the state
Forrest that
sets the appeals procedures.
They did not ask for it on Thursday night.
When I was the selectman, there were a couple of.
They didn't move it until Monday.
Right, no, yeah, you're right.
And they moved it because Linda said you didn't adjust that.
I know. It's not clean.
Right, so they moved it to another spot.
Well, I mean, this is not the way
And what
they
they had was fixing it
Our
on
family tradition.
So they did it, that was no excuse.
Well, with that.
They moved it like that. Like she said,
I know, but
what I looked at.
Just as Robert's son helped me set up the parental control.
We changed.
No, I think that was,
Discretion on what those.
Intermission.
oh, yes, certainly.
Town of Bolton.
Town of Bolton. So you understand what this will do. You're paying half of the fine now. We will allow you to temporarily put your sign up. We will figure out whether or not there's any latitude to either reduce or eliminate the other half of the fine. And we will let you know. Now, but there's a potential that we do not have any ability to do that, and that you would still owe the other $300. But we'll let you know that, and it possibly may be contingent on paying the other $300 to allow you to continue to have that sign. But what we will do is we will research that, we'll talk to the building inspector, and we'll let you know. But for the moment, pay half, you can have the sign up, we'll let you know if you have to pay the other half, the other 300, and whether or not the sign can stay up or has to come down until you pay. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
All right, I move that we approve the Bolton House of Pizza open during construction sign, contingent on our investigating whether the second $300 of the fine can be waived or whether it has to be paid, and we have no flexibility.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll get back to you as soon
Okay.
as we find some
So
information.
Linda call me or you mail me letter? Better
Probably
call
both.
me.
We'll
Yeah,
call. We'll do
Thank you,
both.
yeah.
Thank you, good night now.
Good night.
All right, next up on our agenda is a request from Bolton Senior Housing Corporation to place a sign at 600 Main Street for the senior housing.
I'm a little afraid to come up here.
Oh, you got your checkbook ready?
No. I thought you were going to pay me tonight. Okay, I'm requesting a sign because the residents say that nobody can find them, that they, and I can understand that. So, you have a copy of what it is. It's 72 by 38, and I want to put it approximately here on our property, if you need that.
Okay.
Very simple.
So the dimensions fit, okay? They need a permit?
They need a sign permit,
Yes.
they need to see the building official and get a sign permit.
Okay.
Oh, okay, but I wanted, okay, so I need to see Mike.
Mike.
Is that what you're-
Yep, yep.
Are we done?
She wants to get out.
Can you vote on it?
I don't see a
Oh,
check.
she's asking.
Eileen, you can make one phone call.
Where's the chief?
Call
I
your
need to
lifeline
go.
now.
That's all right.
I move that we approve the.
Oh, wait.
No, I guess you make the motion first, that's fine.
I move that we approve the Bolton Country Manor sign at 600 Main Street as proposed.
Second?
Any discussion? Yes.
Terry Abdelian. Just have a question, because I've been thinking about this. Is there any way, along with this sign, not to make any wrinkles, but to put that the Bolton Senior Center is at the same location?
The
Is
sign
there-
is already done. We could could we?
I don't know
tack
whether there's,
something
you know
on?
how they do sometimes where you have a sign and then a smaller sign or
Well,
something
maybe I could
because.
get a writer to put on it? Oh,
Terry?
hello?
I just is raising the question because as much as they cannot find, nobody can find the Bolton Country Manor, no one can find the Bolton Senior Center, and so when people come, not
It'd
just
probably
the
be a little
residents.
easier once you say
Once-
it's at Bolton
that's a-
Country Manor.
You're right, but that's not the senior center, that's not the senior
Or
center.
you could say 600 Main Street, which is right. Can you put a writer on a sign?
This is on their property.
I'm not sure what you mean.
Well, you could actually have a writer
The
that
second,
says.
yeah, no, we
a
have,
writer that says.
I mean, there are signs which have other little ones hanging,
Is that
but,
okay?
but we don't have that. But I mean,
Just a reason.
usually we have some sort of image of what that's gonna look like. So I think that you can, should
Okay,
you,
why don't we start here?
right,
Yeah.
right.
as
I think
proposed.
Terry can figure out what she wants to do to put there, and then she can sit at the table and.
I don't,
Bring the checkbook.
my husband doesn't give me a check.
Not a flag,
No flags.
No flags. Okay.
But it is something that could sometimes be added, yeah, okay,
yeah.
so.
I mean, it has been done before. I mean,
Okay.
actually, Bruce has that on his, has a rider underneath his.
Okay, so that's just, I think that'll be great, because just having 600 Main Street will be a big improvement.
Just no neon.
No neon,
No dancing
no
girls.
backlighting,
No interior
no,
lighting.
no interior lighting.
Yes, Mark?
Excuse me, is Bolton Country Manor separate from, and is there something other than senior housing at that complex?
Yeah, it's under the name of Bolton Country Manor. It was
Right,
named that.
right.
But there is the senior center
Center is different.
is involved in
Is
it.
different?
They
Yeah.
rent space from Bolton Country Manor.
Oh.
That's the Council
oh.
on Aging, Martha,
Yeah.
and the senior activities. that go
Yeah,
on.
right.
That's
because-
different than housing. This is housing.
But the current sign says Bolton Country Manor Senior Housing, right? The one over by the driveway.
Yes, but that one.
Is that one going to be taken down?
No, they're gonna leave that. They just have found that it's very hard for people who are visiting to find it, because you have to come up that driveway to see the sign.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
How many years is that? Can I hold
Motion to approve?
Oh, yeah.
Or we actually just-
I brought it up, so.
Yeah, we-
Okay.
Ugliest.
All right, any more discussion?
What he wants to do with my light.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye?
Aye?
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's-
Run,
you have-
run.
Bruce, it's now yours.
Okay, what is the sign, the night for signs? All right, next up on our agenda is request from Bruce Slater to place 2 signs at the end of Interstate 495 ramps advertising Slater's Brick Oven Pizza and Barbecue.
Hi guys and gals. I really apologize that I don't have something as nice as that. My sign guy did not get it to me in a timely manner. So I will get you a copy of it. But the gist is Slater's the logo, wood-fired pizza and barbecue, half mile down on right. One on the exit as you're coming from the north and one on the exit as you're coming from the south. Bolton Spring has one standing there, it's by their own, by themselves rather. I was hoping I could go below either the winery or the International.
Mhm.
Same size.
Same size?
Same size. I want to say it's approximately 30 inches by, maybe 24, something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
I'll get the exact, but I want to do exactly like that, so
Right.
it is in conjunction with those signs.
I get the impression those signs are a lot smaller, that for the golf course. The golf
Whatever,
courses.
yeah, whatever size, I
what-
think they're like that and like that, they're not real big. It's just to try to get them that, a lot of times people they get off the highway and they're not gonna, they can see a sign that I used to have it's a temporary one, but it
Yeah.
could be 5 miles down, it could be 10 miles down, but if they only know it's a little bit past, the gas station, just a half mile, I'm hoping that we can try to pull some people off the highway.
You currently have a sign that isn't approved sitting in front of your place, right?
No, they're all approved.
That,
I have allowed to have 2 A-frames on either end. That's
okay, well, that was before my time, I guess.
No, there was a main sign, there was a lot
So
of
that,
2
you
A-frames.
have 3 signs at your,
Right.
approved at your current location? Because you've had these signs up in the past and been told to take them down, right?
Yes, and we did.
And you've never been hit with the $300
No,
a
this was
day
before,
fine.
no, no.
That was
I'm gonna take them
before
down.
the $300 fine.
Yeah, no, because
Signs.
there are
signs.
no signs on 495 telling people that Slater's, unlike, exit 20 or something, or Route 20, there aren't signs on 495 saying Slater's is
No.
coming at the next exit.
No.
It,
I looked into that. It's if it's a food sign, it has to be with another food sign. Because you'll notice there's
Bolton House of Pizza.
They have them
I
for
think they
gasoline.
have to pay.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money. The golf course has one up. The flea market has one. Well, actually, the Stowe has the Stowe area golf courses is their own freestanding sign. And the mobile station and the flea market, and I think there's something else on that one sign.
Yeah, no, I can see the utility of sort of the wayfinding sign. So if somebody wants to know which way is the international when they get off.
Yeah.
But it seems like, with the size you're looking at, you're advertising, you're not just telling people Slater's is this way, you're saying, come to Slater's, wood-fired pizza and barbecue. I don't know, I'm sort of concerned with cluttering up the intersection, and,
We were talking, speaking with the economic development, when Jenny was still here, we talked about, she was looking at a grant about the possibility of getting a nice wooden carved sign with, all the businesses listed on there with arrows going, but it just never,
Right.
and that's why I thought that, we could just jump with the other folks on there.
Are folks gonna know who you are or just with the S?
Well, I think,
Or spelling out
I
Slater's?
think having to say, what we are, let's say pizzeria, it's wood-fired pizza and barbecue, or Slater's Restaurant, if this is too much, and then just to let them know it's only a half mile down, where it's not, goes close by.
Up in Maine, they have a lot of signs like that, or they have posts with, this distances and stuff, and it's very helpful. It's and it really doesn't tend to clutter things up.
Well, similar to that, if you go up farther north on 495, when you come off the highway and you can, if there's a fork at the end, it will say McDonald's to the left, Burger King to the right, and it is getting very busy at that intersection, but I think all of those businesses do need a little help in getting people who are on the highway to know where they are. So my impression was always those, again, these things are right on the triangle, which is just what we have there, farther up 495. My impression is that the state puts them there because it's state property.
Those are the state,
And how do we pursue that? Do we know how to pursue something like that?
I think they charge for those.
Not the big one, not the big one off of 495, like with, at the triangle.
Just before the off-ramps.
Right.
They have it on before. They have
Where the off-ramp hits the local road.
Right.
Before, it's after you get off the highway.
Yeah.
but when you have the choice, because people have already made the choice. By the time they get up to the sign, they've already, if you're getting off going north.
No, in both areas, there's a triangle where you can either, if you're gonna take a left, you go straight, and if you're gonna take a right, then you bear right.
But he's putting it in front of the
I'm
stop
talking
sign.
about.
Oh, no, I understand, that's a better way to do it.
One that goes on that triangle, and then we won't need these smaller signs elsewhere.
Or if all these smaller signs are the same size anyway, it may be that the town should just look at putting up a post and putting them all right there, just so we've got consistency in it. And it's,
But it's-
I mean, I would disagree with a little bit, Larry, with your comment that, you know, people already know it's there. I mean, I've been at Country Cupboard many times and had somebody roll down the window and say, where's someplace to get something to eat? You know, so they've gotten off the highway looking for something, but they don't know, you know, what's around and,
Well, I think, you know, Bob's suggestion is good, but I think that's gonna take some time to research. But I think in the interim, you know, allowing this on an existing pole where the other signs are, because it is across
Across from the
across
triangle.
from, in front of the stone wall, so it's, you know.
Because the state owns the triangles, right? You
Yeah,
can't really do it
yeah.
there, you have to do it in front of the ledge.
When will you have something that we can see that's,
I mean, I will get you one as soon as possible. I mean, I'm not gonna, you know, you guys can review it again. I mean, you know, I'd like to get it up, but I mean, I'd like you to see what it's gonna look like. Match the colors of the signs that I have. I mean, this is kind of a little embarrassing, but it's done on the fly.
do you want to prove contingent upon seeing the real look?
Well, you know, I prefer to have sort of the actual signature and the
Understood.
size, and maybe
Understood.
check it out, because I just had the impression
Understood.
those golf course signs are a lot smaller, but, you know, I understand your point, you wanna, you know, get the word out.
yeah.
But you're on Google Maps, right? There you go.
Yeah, it is, yeah, my maps. I mean, when you'd be able to have kind of a,
Hopefully tomorrow, but I mean, before, when are you guys meeting again? Next
2 weeks?
24th, that's fine.
Yeah.
I can use you for that.
Okay.
okay.
Sounds good?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So when do you wait till then? Then we'll-
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, perfect.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right, next up on our agenda is a request from the Historical Commission to display plaques on town buildings within the Center National Register of Historic District.
It's the signs meeting.
That's right.
Place and signs, yeah.
We're doing theme shows now.
On August 16th, the commission sent out letters to all the residents in the historic district, and people responded that would like to have plaques on their homes. And we would like to purchase for the town plaques on the public buildings that are within the historic district. The public library, the townhouse, which is here, the Powder House, which is up on the ledge, the First Baptist Church, which is on Wattaquatic Hill Road, just before the Safety Center, the Emerson School, Colonel Edward D. Emerson Elementary School, and the Houghton High School, Houghton Building. These are much simpler than the ones that were included in the letter that we sent to the other residents. And these look really nice, they're very uncluttered. Linda Engelman pared them down, so it says, you know, it is on the register, and it's a federal entity. And these are all named as they are in the Historic Property Survey and the date of their inception.
I tried looking in the Federal Register, it was shut down.
There you go.
So, and they would be, I think they're about 8 by 10, 8 by 11. And they would be affixed with rosettes over the screws. And where they're put could be, you know, we could also let you know where we wanted them put, probably the front of the townhouse, you know, the front.
Yeah.
There already is a sign at the First Baptist Church that Lee Tavares made, and he refurbished that a year or so ago. So, anyway,
That's the, now the
It
tiny
was-
firehouse?
yes, it
Okay.
was, right.
No.
It was the meeting house and where they kept the hearse and where the Bolton Fair kept their storage for a long time. It's where the spare fire truck is currently housed. And that's really an important little building,
Yeah.
even though people think it's fairly old and rickety.
No, this is nice. It's very nice.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good idea, though. There's almost $1,000 worth of signs here,
And
though,
these will
right?
be bronze,
Mhm.
and they'll last longer than the ones that the public library have. They're looking into those. And we will also talk with the trustees about the library, too.
Okay.
That would be on the old section of the
Right,
library.
right.
Yeah.
Do you have this in your budget already for this year?
Yeah, we're hoping to get it done in this 2014 budget.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying for this, I mean, because there's something like $150 a piece, right?
Yeah, 150,
No, I-
200 bucks, yeah, right.
No,
Yeah,
I'm
no, this is-
just wondering if that's already,
Yes.
you already have enough money for that in your
We won't
budget.
need extra money.
Ah, yay! All we wanted to hear.
No, I think it's a good
Yeah.
idea.
That's fine.
So we'll keep you informed of the
Okay.
progress,
No, it's great. It's nice.
and we're happy they meet with your approval.
Absolutely.
And thank you so much, it's been a very interesting
Thank you.
meeting.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
did you not have to vote approval of those plaques?
No, because really, we weren't requesting permission. We were just-
Should you be requesting?
She'll be back
because-
for forgiveness later on.
No, this is what the historical commission is supposed to do, so somebody had pointed out we shouldn't really request as much as show you
Inform.
and get your approval, yeah. I mean, obviously, if you had
Why don't we-
real,
Do you want to just do this? Why not?
an issue about whether or not,
Yep.
no, you can't do this, you can't deface our historic buildings.
Well, yeah, but I think, why don't we just formalize our approval? I
Yeah.
move that we approve the 6 signs as proposed by the Historic Commission.
One second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. I believe the fire chief is not going to be with us this evening.
He's unavailable.
All right, so come to the next meeting, so then we will move straight to the town administrator report.
All right, thank you. I have no signs to review. I believe between what Larry and I shared earlier, when we were having the 117 discussion and the impact of the slots, we pretty much touched on the community mitigation agreement. That I have reached out to Cordish, I have gotten a response. I will be scheduling meeting time with them. I've been in communication with the Gaming Commission's ombudsman, and will be doing so again hopefully tomorrow. I will be submitting a request for reimbursement of expenses once I understand the process, the timing for which we should get that in, because obviously we don't know what we're going to have for expenses yet, or the type of expenses necessarily, so I'd like to get some more clarity on that, but we will be moving forward on that, and I think Larry did a very good job of explaining what the state has laid out for a process. Effectively, if we can't come to closure with Cornish, then I will need to file a request with the State Gaming Commission for us to be considered to be a surrounding community, and then they will rule on that. As far as the update on Minuteman, the regional agreement study committee had its final meeting. We came to closure on pretty much everything, right down to the funding formula, which got revisited yet again. And amazingly, and I said this at the meeting, I ended up agreeing with the representative from Arlington, which if you had told me 2 years ago that I would be agreeing with the representative from Arlington, I never would have believed it.
You sold us out.
I know. And ultimately, there was a unanimous vote on the funding formula, which was great. And we did stick with the 1% fixed. We didn't deviate from that. So the final product is now being submitted to the school committee for their review, editing, or approval thereof. So that committee has officially now been disbanded, and as I shared with you in an email, I've been solicited to participate in another activity with some responsibilities still to be defined, but I'll be continuing to work on that. And of course, the Minuteman Building Committee still has its work to do, and we'll be meeting next week, and I believe early in November as well. Two other things that didn't make my list here. One, I did send you an email earlier today relative to the Houghton building and the proposed repairs to it. We did get quotes back for both painting and the cement fiberboard. We got 2 quotes for the cement fiberboard. Both were above what we have allocated for funds. We actually received 4 quotes for painting, but 1 was withdrawn. So we were left with 3. Of the 3, 2 were more than what we had for allocated funds. And it is Harold's recommendation, and I agree with him, that we throw out all of the bids and rebid in late winter in preparation for early spring, where we believe more contractors will be interested in bidding, and they may be a bit more, they may be a bit hungrier and more anxious for work and may have more competitive bids. So we think we can get more bids and of a more competitive nature if we hold off and do it early in the spring. And I asked Harold if he had any concern about the condition of the building deteriorating further if we go through another winter, and he does not. So it is Harold's recommendation, and I agree that we hold off on that.
Sounds fine to me.
And the one other thing is, I received an email from Ken Troop on behalf of the Cable Committee saying that their lawyer, which has now attended the first meeting, has suggested that an hour be set aside at the beginning of a selectmen's meeting, if it isn't a separate meeting, and that various citizens, Bolton Access TV people and Cable Committee members testify about what they're looking for from Comcast. So it's effectively a public hearing to talk about, what they would like to see out of the process. That being a public hearing, we need to set it for a time definite. Knowing that at November 14th, we already have a public hearing scheduled at 7:15, or we'll have a public hearing scheduled at 7:15 with the assessors to do to have the tax classification hearing. It would be my suggestion, if it works for everyone's schedule, that we start a half hour earlier on the 14th at 6:30, so this public hearing could go from 6:30 to 7:15, and then we conclude and go into the public hearing with the assessors. So I don't know how that works for everyone's schedule, but.
Well, you have another meeting starting early.
On October 24th,
Yeah.
potentially.
I mean, why can't we have the public hearing at 8 o'clock?
We could.
Oh, I see, the request was, and to cut down on legal bills, was to get this lawyer in and out and do him first. All right, now I can.
It's always more
see my
cost
way
effective to
clear.
have the lawyer come first rather
Gotcha.
than. With all due respect to lawyers,
No, well, no.
I just hate to pay a lawyer to travel and sit. I'd rather have the lawyer travel, do what they come to do, and then move on. But if that doesn't work for your schedule, we can map out something different.
No, I could, I guess I don't want to make a habit of it, but that's, for these 2 times, that's fine.
Okay. All right, and that's all I have for this evening, unless the board has any questions for me.
Back to Minuteman, anything new on the out-of-district student contribution to capital costs?
Superintendent Boquillian sent, I think, a very well-written letter to the Commissioner for DESE requesting that he reconsider the trend for lowering the out-of-district tuition, and also raising the specter of the capital costs for out-of-district students. Also, Ford Spalding, who is the chairman of the building committee and a member of the school committee from Dover, submitted a letter to Governor Patrick when he came out to the event at Minuteman, detailing in quite a bit of detail the concerns that we're facing with that and the issues that we're facing. Also referencing Senator Donnelly's legislation, Senate Bill 228. I believe that there's a possibility that a meeting with the governor could be coming out of that. So it is being looked at the highest levels, but there's no decision that's been made yet.
Anything else, Tom?
Not at this time.
All right, I guess on to Board of Selectmen business. First up, we have a recommendation of the Cultural Council to appoint Teresa Sauer, Nan Schnitzler, James Atherton, Barthy Bhakta, Allison Morgan, Julia Secesio, and Marie Marungu. I'm assuming they advertise the
Yes, we have been
positions?
advertising.
Okay. All right.
And so these folks are all joining in addition to the, what is it, 6 members we currently have, or
Yes.
5 members that we have currently? And these terms are all, they're 6-year terms, so they run through June 30th, 2019, except for 2 3-year terms for Allison Morgan and Marie Marunga.
Right.
And that was done just to start getting them staggered.
Okay.
So that
And
they're not
there's
all-
actually a state requirement that you can't
Yeah,
serve for
this
more
is-
than 6 years continuously?
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, I move that we adopt the recommendation of the Cultural Council to add the residents that Stan just listed.
For the terms as
Yes.
shown.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Next up is recommendation of the Economic Development Committee to appoint David Pettit, term whose expiration will be June 30th, 2016. And I'm assuming the advertising was.
Yes. we have been
Okay.
advertising.
Oh, I heard that Mr. Pettit had at one point expressed interest in the planning board, but I guess he has opted for economic development over the planning board. That's too bad. Because we still have an opening there, right? But I move that we appoint David Pettit to the Economic Development Committee for the term expiring June 30th, 2016.
Second?
Discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Next up, to discuss the process for the appointment of the Bolton School Committee representative due to the resignation of Rita Rupich. It's unfortunate that commitments have required her to step down, but, so what exactly is the process?
The process is that following whatever period of advertisement the board deems appropriate, this is a joint appointment between the 3 Board of Selectmen and the 1 remaining member of the 1 remaining Bolton representative, which would be Nancy Fittersfield. So it's a 4-person appointment. Of course, the school committee and the superintendent are anxious to have another Bolton representative on board as soon as possible, as I think everyone is.
Right.
So one way to approach this would be, and we already have received 1 letter of interest. So one way to approach this could be to advertise as quickly as possible, and then at the October 24th meeting, make the appointment then. The next meeting after that is November 14th. So I guess you need to consider whether 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks' time is enough for advertisement. I mean, we can get it up on the webpage, we can do a broadcast mailing as well as get it into the paper. And I'm sure that there'll be probably some sort of story in the newspaper about it as well, aside from an ad, so. It's whatever the board is comfortable with as far as a time frame, but the appointment is the 4 of you, done by the 4 of you.
Can we put a flyer together for town meeting, the special town meeting with all of the openings?
That's a really good idea.
Yeah.
We can certainly do that.
It just, the timing happens to work out. for
Yeah,
us.
no, it's great. Yeah.
And have we had any interest from the questionnaire that goes out with the annual census? Is there anybody who's expressed interest in school board on that?
I can check, we can
Okay.
check that next week.
Okay. Just thinking, where can we get,
Yeah.
make sure people that have expressed interest.
Do you gentlemen think 2 weeks is enough, or you want to give it a month?
2 weeks is kind of fast track, but
Yeah, it is.
this position goes through the next election, right? So it'd be through May?
It would go to May 12th, yes.
Yeah, okay, whoever's appointed. I don't know, I mean, I can also see value in getting someone in there.
Yeah.
So I guess I could go either way. Though let me ask you, Don, and this is just something I didn't, why does our regional agreement only give us 2 votes on, as opposed, the other towns have 3 members, right? And both in dollars and students, it seems like we're higher up on the ladder there. What is it about the regional agreement that has us just at 2 voting members?
In all honesty, I have absolutely no idea.
Yeah. Oh, maybe Mr. Lindsay does.
The school administration maintains that the U.S. Constitution requires that it be done on a population basis. And although we have a higher student enrollment than Lancaster, we have a lower population. And what's particularly galling is, I think, a good part of their population comes from a detention facility that is in Lancaster. But that counts. However, Don has said that the regional agreement that they're working on for Minuteman has the voting based on enrollment, right?
No, there's one representative per district.
Right.
But when we go to weighted voting at the school committee level,
Yes.
it will be based on enrollment within the district. But that will be an amendment done in the regional agreement.
Right. But so I really think there's reason to challenge this, and I was going to bring that up right now. That in addition to the process for appointing a replacement to Rita, we research.
Appoint 2.
Just to be safe.
We research if there isn't any way to get around this, because there are lots of instances where things are not done when federal money is involved by population. For instance, water districts out west that are funded by the feds. The amount of water you use is what your voting strength is. So I don't really think the school administration's position on this is necessarily absolutely correct, and I think we ought to fight it especially.
Oh, I think that's a good point. We should do some research and see.
I can research the regional agreement.
Yeah. Because I mean, we do have more enrollment. So.
And I would talk. The one who, I brought this up with at the Neshoba School Committee maybe 2 years ago, and the one who seemed to be particularly knowledgeable about why it was that way and why the federal constitution required it was George King. So you might want to talk with George to get that point of view. And
Okay. All right.
I mean, I think back to where we were before. I think, given that it's only until the next election, I think I'm okay with the 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, and I guess the only other thing, I don't know if we can get it on the school website. You know, just that's where more of the parents.
Oh,
would
we
be
can.
like-
I saw a note that
Michael would
that
say
already
that we
happened.
could, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, we can,
So
we
I
can
think,
do all
yeah.
that.
So I think we've got some avenues to get notice out pretty quickly to people that would be interested. So I think that the 2 weeks is.
Yeah, and I agree with the fact that it's only to next year.
Yeah.
When we do this process over again. So yeah, that's fine. Okay.
And we think Nancy's going to be available at our next meeting. Do we know that?
We believe so, yes.
Okay.
I've already written a first draft of an ad to go. It probably is too long. It needs to be whittled down a little bit, but it's a first. Or maybe not.
Okay.
All right. Okay. All right, then fine. Then we're done with that. Next up is review and execute the municipal agreement for the shared services for the affordable housing. Is there something missing in that line? Housing trust?
Maybe
No.
The regional housing consultant?
Services for the affordable housing.
Trust committee?
Maybe just kick out
Trust.
E.
Administration or.
Trust. Okay,
Yeah.
trust. Okay.
If you want affordable, it's affordable.
Regional housing.
Okay.
trust, yeah. That's- Yeah, it's just on 36. For the affordable housing. That's administration of the affordable housing, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah, it is admissible for the housing trust.
Well, what we're actually doing is sharing the services of a regional housing consultant
Right.
among these
Yeah.
various towns.
Right.
All right.
That's right.
Right. Has anyone else signed up for this yet, or are we like the first?
No, I know there are others that have signed. I don't know that we're the last, but I know that there are others that have signed.
Okay. I took a quick look at it and it seemed to be okay.
And it's one of those things very similar to what we do with the Regional Hazardous Waste Collaborative.
Right.
There are separate signature pages. We get that signature page and then they all get melded together.
And this replaces this replaces the people we currently use for this administration, or who currently does, is that the planning board, or is that Jenny did this work, or?
Yes, this was Jenny,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I think I can provide some color on this. Basically, we weren't doing it, and there's a state requirement that we do it. And we just didn't have the manpower to do it. There's these big questionnaires on your affordable housing census, so to speak, and we weren't doing that, and these guys are going to do it. I would have guessed this was with the Bolton Housing Authority rather than the Affordable Trust, because the Affordable Trust just holds and spends money for affordable uses, but I think it might be the Housing Authority that is supposed to be filling out their forms and doesn't have any.
Yeah, the signatory is actually us, the Board of Selectmen.
Right.
Yeah.
But there's right, in the past, Jenny assisted people from the Affordable Housing Trust. There were a couple of members that were very, very active in trying to keep up with this, and it's not a small task. So they were doing the very best that they could.
No, I think it's makes sense. Did you see anything, Larry?
No, nothing jumped out at me, but I think it makes sense to sort of regionalize this, this type of requirement. So I move that we approve the agreement between the towns of Hudson, Littleton, Boxborough, Stowe, and Bolton to share the services and costs of a common regional housing consultant.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right. There you go. Next up is the review and ratification of the memorandum of agreement between the police union and the town of Bolton.
And Linda has a copy of the agreement, which has already been signed by the two members of the executive committee of the police union. So all that is required is a vote on behalf of the Board of Selectmen to ratify the agreement and then for you to sign it.
And this is, the agreement is what we have been...
Yes, it's what we've been negotiating for quite some time.
A long time coming since the last, the contract ended June 30th, 2011, right?
No, it actually expired, well, the previous contract, yes, did expire, yes. June 30th, 2011. And this contract, once it's put into contract language, will expire June 30th, 2014.
Just in time to start.
Which means tomorrow you'll be starting it again.
Before I know it, we will be entering the negotiations for the new contract.
I move that we approve the memorandum of agreement number 6 between the town of Bolton and the Bolton Police Union Local 286 of the Massachusetts Coalition of Police, IUPA, AFL-CIO.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Thank you.
Last item is review of minutes.
Of September 19th.
I move that we, Mark and I at least, approve the minutes of September 19th, 2013.
I'll second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I'm sure they're great now.
Yeah, that's what you do.
You abstain, Mr. Chairman?
I abstain.
You probably watched the live broadcast, so you don't need to read the minutes.
Brussels, what was that, Brussels? They didn't have it live in Brussels, did they?
No.
Yeah.
Anything else, gentlemen?
No?
And we do not need an
We
executive
do not need
session.
an executive session this evening.
Then I'll entertain a motion to.
The next meeting is the 24th?
24th.
And we're starting at
6:30.
6:30.
Is that 6:30?
In executive session.
Okay, yeah,
Oh, 7 for the rest of us.
yeah.
Okay.
There's
I move that we adjourn.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, my beacon. Oh, my two of them.
I think you're
Gotta catch
You
up.
missed one. You missed one.